this is the OM-84 from 1984, and this is the OM-108 from 2024. And the main, well, I'll go through a bunch of differences. One of the main, most obvious differences is that this is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit thinner as well. And this is a little bit, hold on, if I get them side by side, it's a little bit thicker. But this is also heavier. This is a little bit lighter. And this takes 8 AA batteries, and also the DC cable thing, whereas this takes a while to open it up, but it takes 8 C-type batteries, which are like a lot bigger, not really as common as AA, so a little bit more inconvenient. But you can get rechargeable batteries for both, which is what I do, because I like to take it out with me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they take the same cable, which needs to be a center negative DC 12 volt power supply thing with like a minimum amp of something. It doesn't have to be the official one, but you need to look into the specific things. Anyway, so one of the other main differences is that this from 1984 is fully analog, whereas this is mostly digital. The exception is that the Omni 1 and Omni 2 main strum plates are analog on this one, which is so the ones that are so this is analog, this sound is analog. That's an analog sound. And the sub voice is analog. But the sub voice in Omni 2, that's digital. That's digital. These are all digital samples. So that affects how the sound can feel. So I'll show you briefly in terms of the sound what the difference feels like between the analog and digital. The digital is more of, it's kind of more hi-fi, high quality kind of like sound, whereas the analog has more of like a warmth, more of a thingy, analog, natural, like thingy-mabobs. I'd recommend looking more into the difference between analog and digital if you want to go further into that. Another difference in the sound is that this kind of has more low end. It's kind of like got a warmer sound generally, whereas this is a little bit more like high endy, a little bit more like tingy or something. Another thing, so the main differences I would say are analog versus mostly digital and a little bit of analog, and as well as the features. This one has more features, and I'll go through that in a minute. And one thing about this OM-84 is when you turn the volume up, you can hear a little bit of white noise, which personally I don't mind. It actually can be quite nice if you like that kind of like flavor. Whereas if you turn the volume up on turn the volume up on this one, you can't hear any white noise or anything. So just a basic drone chord sound on this one, which the chord drony organ sound is digital on this. My one, this mute knob doesn't work. That's another thing, because this is from 1984 and it's fully analog. It probably doesn't have as much longevity, and there might be some features that don't work perfectly. That's part of the old analog vintage gear situation. But you can probably get a good one. Oh, another big difference is that this one cost £700 and this one cost me about £400 used on eBay. So very big price difference. And so that's that sound. You might not be able to hear the difference through the speakers, but this is kind of like a warmer thing, and this has more of like a lighter trebly vibe. But you can put it through, you can plug them both in. This has an output and this has an output, and also a headphone thing. And you can plug them both in and kind of like change the balance as well if you want to change the sound and give this one more low end or something like that. So another difference in the hardware is that this one has got no strap pins, but you can probably quite easily drill in strap pins if you want. Whereas this one has these things which you can put the strap pins in, but you can't just put any guitar strap pins in. You need to get the specific Omnichord ones, which they sell, which cost around £20 if you want to buy that, which is kind of annoying. Whereas you could drill into this one and use normal guitar ones, which could actually end up to be cheaper. But then obviously you have to drill into the thing. And more hardware things. This has an output, which is like a guitar cable-y size thing. It has a DC power supply, center negative, and it has a foot switch, which you can use like just any sustain pedal from a piano, or sometimes it comes with the original Omnichord thing. And that foot switch basically presses this button, and I'll get around to that in a minute. The video just cut out. Okay, so on this one, we've got this power supply. I think it's the same one. We got the line out. We've got headphones, which does the same kind of thing as a line out, just with a different thing. And it's got a MIDI out, which is really useful. It's got this 5-pin MIDI thing, which is really useful because you can basically use this as just a MIDI controller. These send chord information, which is basically just a normal inverted chord with a root note on bass. And then, you can use that for MIDI as well. And, the MIDI drums if you want. So there's a lot you can do with that. Like you can use like a string orchestra, and you can control the orchestra with this and this, which is a very easy way to kind of like get those kind of like sounds. And this doesn't have any MIDI functionality. I think maybe if you wanted to like get in there and mod some things, you could add a MIDI feature, but I'm not going to do that. That's quite tricky, I imagine. But I end up using it kind of unplugged. Usually I like to do that with rechargeable batteries, and taking it with me places, so I don't end up using the MIDI so much. And then it's got this speaker on off thing, which is just if it's plugged in to headphones or a speaker or an amp, then if the speaker's on, it means that this speaker is still going, even if it's plugged into another one. And off, it means it's not. Whereas with this one, if you plug it into a speaker and amp, this automatically turns off, which, I don't know, sometimes it's nice to have this speaker going on at the same time. Another difference is these have some nice clicky things, which I like, and the buttons are different, and you know, it's got these buttony things and it's got these clicky things like a cassette tape thingy, which I enjoy the clickiness. It's got this stuff. These buttons are different, whereas these, all the buttons have like this kind of feel, and they got more lights to show where it is, which is just a thing about preference. Same with this one. And the buttons themselves, the feel of this one, it feels a little bit, these chord buttons feel nicer to me. They kind of feel a little bit, they're not quite as tall, and they kind of have like a softer thing about them. These are a little bit more, they both kind of like wiggle, like that. These are kind of like a little bit taller, you can see, compared to these, which are a little bit shorter, and they feel a little bit different. Get that, here's some of that noise stuff. And then the other difference in the hardware is that this strum plate is a lot wider. This is a lot thinner, which I think it's definitely nicer that it's wider, because it means you can you can do like this, you can do kind of like a figure eight, you know, which is really nice. Whereas this, you can't, it doesn't quite feel as smooth. And on this one, you have to press quite a bit harder to get a note from the strum plate. So let me get a string sound. Oh, wait, what am I doing? Oh, okay. And you need to keep the chord hold. I mean, you can't really feel, but if I just slide gently, I'm not making a note. You have to press harder. Whereas on this one, I can't really, even if I'm gliding very gently, it still does a sound, which has more of a floaty vibe, and this has more of like a grounded thing, because you have to press, which in some ways, I mean, it's really a thing of preference. In some ways, sometimes this feels nicer, because having to press makes you feel a little bit more engaged sometimes. But I think overall, I prefer the strum plate on this. Like, it feels very floaty and is really like taking advantage of what the strum plate can do. And then, so while we're on the subject of the strum plate, this one, it has, the strum plate is called Sonic Strings. It has the sustain, and it has voice 1 and 2. So voice 1 and voice 2 here. And this one is similar. It has sustain, and it has main, which is like voice 1, and sub, which is like voice 2. So with the sustain in the middle, voice 2 down, voice 1, I'll play a C. This is what voice 1 sounds like. I'll do the same here. Turn the sustain down to match it a little bit more. And voice 2 sounds like this. It's quite similar. And the sustain all the way up. And then here's both voices together with the sustain up. Another thing, one of the features about this Omnichord is that this one, it only has voice 1 and 2. Oh, I'm hearing some sound from this one. Anyway, this one only has 2 voices, voice 1 and 2, whereas this one, it has all of these voices. So it has, and each of these voices has a main and a sub. And I'll show you what these voices. Omni 1, Omni 2 is the same. Harp, turn the sustain down. Celeste, which is one of my favorites. Piano, guitar, FM piano, organ, vibes, and banjo. And as I said before, most of those are digital samples except for Omni 1 and 2. And then the sub voice, if I just show you the sub voice on all of those, Omni 1, this is still analog. Sub voice for Omni 2, it's digital. That's the same. Same again. Same voice again. Same voice again. Now that's different. That's a really nice one. Similar to the early ones, but it's slightly different. So the sub voice is usually the same on this one, but the main voice is changing. So that's one of the big differences of features. Extra features on the newer Omnichord, the OM-108, compared to the older one. It's got a lot more Strumplate voices. So in a way, the Strumplate generally is just a big development, whereas the Strumplate is simpler. The other big difference in feature on this one is keyboard mode. So keyboard mode, I'll go here. Keyboard mode, it uses these voices. And octave down, octave up. This one does have a similar thing. You've got a kind of keyboard mode thing here. There. Octave. But this one only has it can only do how many octaves? It has just above 2 octaves, and this has just a bit more than 3 octaves. But the advantage of this one, the keyboard mode, is that, well, this one, the keyboard mode, it only has this sound, and it's monophonic. You can only play one note at a time. You can't play chords. This one, if you go to a different voice, chords, or which is really cool. And in the keyboard mode, this one also has, if I turn the rhythm up, it also has a drum pad thing. And it has the same thing here. Where each one has you can see I'm putting it in a slightly different position. but they're both hi-hats. That's the same with all of them, like the snare, which means that you can kind of like quickly, because if you do it on one, it doesn't really go through as a quick thing. But if you do it on the two different points, you can do it a lot more quickly, if that makes sense. But yeah, you've got a drum pad, and if you play a rhythm, this is something cool. It does this. It's quantized. So here it's not quantized, but these are quantized, but this isn't quantized. So that's a good, nice feature that it has there. And in contrast, this OM-84, the older one, it has this feature which this one doesn't have, called the chord memory interface, which is where you'll find the keyboard mode. But you also have a thing where you can record chord sequences into it. So you go like this, and then record, and then you go to playback mode, and then it stops until you press repeat. And it can be kind of useful, especially if you plug it into a foot pedal, because then you can use the foot pedal to change the chords, while with this one, using the strum plate or the keyboard, which could be useful for a performance or something, but it is annoying that it just stops and you have to press repeat every time. But I believe you can put in a sequence of like 50 chords or something, so you could put a whole song in there and just press through the chords in the song with your foot while doing stuff here, or you could even press through the chords with your foot while like playing guitar or something, which is kind of cool. And so that can be a very useful feature. I do also kind of wish that it had a looper or sequencer kind of thing, which neither of these have really, but this is the closest thing it has to that. Oh, okay, so one extra important note is that this is called the OM-108 because it has 108 different chords, and this one I think has 84 different chords, or it might be called the OM-84 because it's from 1984, but I think it might also have 84 different chords, but it has around that much. Because this one, these are the chords it has. I'll show you. Go out of chord memory. It has major chords, minor chords, seventh chords, major seventh chords, minor seventh chords, augmented chords, and what they call diminished chords. They call that a diminished chord, but it's actually in both of these. Oh, whoops. Oh, wait. It's actually a minor 6 chord. So it's kind of strange that they call it a major chord, because so it's a minor 6 chord, which is actually the same. Oh, sorry, it's strange that they call it a diminished chord because it's a minor 6 chord. But a minor 6 chord is actually the same thing as a diminished chord of a different note. So a B diminished, which would normally resolve to C, a B diminished is actually this. This is actually a B diminished. See how it resolves nicely to C. Whereas they call this the B diminished. And it almost does sound similar. It resolves nicely to C as well, but it's not completely within the scale if you use it as a diminished chord. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Anyway, so those are the chords that this has. And this one has the same, it has all of those chords. Major, minor, 7th, major 7th, minor 7th, augmented, minor 6, or they call diminished. And it also has extra chords. It has a add 9 chord, which is, and it has a sus4 chord, which is really nice because if I'm playing, say, A Day in the Life, it needs a sus2, but I can use an add 9. There. Whereas in this one, if I want to play A Day in the Life, I have to go like this. Oh, let's scrap that a second. See, I'm just using a normal major chord because that's the closest, but it doesn't quite sound the same like a major chord. Or it's a different vibe, and sometimes that add 9 or that sus4 come in really handy. So that's a big bonus of this newer OM-108. Okay, now I'll put this back over here. I'll move on to the drums and the sounds, which are quite different. So I'll turn the chords off for now. This one has 2 different drum sounds, and they're both digital. They're both digital samples. One of the drum sounds is like this. Which is similar to this one. I'll turn the chords off again, turn the drum through. Oh. It's a bit different. This is more like more low end, more like and this is more tingy, it's higher. But this one has this other feature, whereas if you turn it off and you either press this one to go to where we were before, or you press this one to go to the other drum sound, it flashes like that, and then it sounds very different, which is quite cool. More of a modern sound. Sounds quite nice for some songs specifically, like this one. Whereas the 84 doesn't quite do that. bit different. And then, yeah, so that takes me to all these patterns that it has, and these patterns. Some of them are quite similar, some of them are quite different, but it's just got a whole different set of patterns. So on this one, I'll go through all of them. With the chord auto on, which means it sounds like this as opposed to. And it's the same with this one, so with chord auto on. That reminds me actually, another thing that I prefer about this older Omnichord is that this button is clicky and it goes in and out like this, whereas this button is a light thing, which means that when I'm turning this on, I can just keep it in the chord mode, which I often like to have it like that, or you can keep it there. And then when you turn it on, it's got the setting you want. Whereas this one, when you turn it on, it always goes to auto, which means it always starts there, even if I want it to start there. So it can be a little bit annoying. So the drum sounds with the bass on this one, I'll go through them all. Rock 1, rock 2, etc. I'll just do it on a E flat minor, which is the Clint Eastwood chord. Disco. Latin. Country. March. Tango. Blues. Swing. Waltz. And on this one, we got E flat minor, auto, rock 1, rock 2. I like this one. This one's good. And then hip hop. And funk. Funk now. Bossa nova. I'll show you all of those with the other sounds. So you hold that one, you turn it on, and it's flashing. So we got. Alright, so an extra thing I just thought of. They both have this button which says auto manual, which here is that one. They both have this chord hold, which here is that one. But this one has this thing which is sync start, which means that when you press a chord, the rhythm starts. This is about the drum beat. When you press that, it stops. Press that, it starts. When you press that, it stops. Press that, it starts. Whereas this one doesn't have... Oh, wait, no. So when you press that, and then it has the start, which the rhythm's just going, and then it's got that. And then when you press that, just the chords stop, but the rhythm keeps going, which is quite cool. If you want like a little just solo drum thing. Whereas this one, you can't, at least, it might be because my mute thing is broken, but I think even with the mute, it would mute all the things. It would mute the drums and the chords. I can't test it out, but it doesn't have a way to like quickly turn just the chords off. You can quickly do that. It's a bit of a... But yeah, that's a workaround. And you can get just drums if you go to playback mode, go through all the chords, and then so, okay, actually it's in playback mode, yeah, playback mode, and then you just go through all the chords, and then you just got the drum sound going, but that takes a bit of time. So I'm trying to think if there's any more features. I'm trying to kind of like cover everything to get a full round comparison of these two. I think I've covered most things that I can think of. There's a lot of different, very specific different features within the old OM-84 and the new OM-108. For me, personally, I've actually decided that I'm going to sell this new OM-108 because even though on the whole it has more features, it's a little bit more convenient in some ways. I prefer the sound of this one, just the... and the way it feels. I like the clicky buttons. I like the way these buttons feel. And I like the kind of the analog sound of it. It feels a lot more, it feels a lot nicer to me, a lot more organic. I prefer the drums on this one, the drum sound. And I prefer the chord sound. And I prefer the Strumplate sound, even though there aren't as many sounds. But what I prefer on this one are, I like the wide Strumplate. I really like the disco sound, which is... I like doing this. And I like the Celeste. So it's like... And I also like the FM piano, because you can turn the chords off. You can just go to the FM piano's sub voice, which is really nice. It's really nice ambient sounds. Same with the organ. But yeah, overall, this is cheaper, and I prefer just the way it sounds and feels generally. Even though I'm gonna miss many things about this one, because it has some nice things. I was feeling a little bit uninspired by the basic sound, which is just the normal Omni. Even though the Omni is analog, I don't quite like how it sounds compared to this one. The normal chord sounds. But yeah, that pretty much covers the differences that I can think of between these two Omnichords. Yep. Oh, also the tempo on this, it goes down to a bit lower. If you listen, because it's quite slow. On this one, the tempo, the slowest tempo is da, 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 da. It's quite close, but this goes a little bit slower. Also, the OM-108 has this pitch feature where you can change the pitch very, very slightly, which is cool. But this one has the same thing, but you just need to do it here and use a screwdriver to get in there, and you can do very micro tunings. Because this one is more likely, because it's analog, it's more likely to go out of tune very slightly, I think. But I haven't really experienced that. It's been mostly okay.